Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I am Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And this is the Jedi Enclave presents the Now This is Podcasting podcast, and it is our Halloween Eve special. By Halloween Eve special, I mean I noticed yesterday while preparing for the show that this is the night, or not the night, this because that joke you were telling, right?
Yeah.
Before, that's why I just said that. It is just a few days before Halloween, and
So we're gonna get spooky,
Yeah.
and the only way we know how, by talking about a really shitty Star Wars book about zombies.
We're not. No. We're not talking about that. I have a list of like spooky horror movie moments from all of Star Wars.
See, I just saw Red Harvest on the thumbnail, and I assumed that was what we were doing. But
It's on my list, and we'll talk about it when we get there.
right.
I don't think Red Harvest is a good enough book for me to talk about just on its own, because as we'll talk about when we get there, it's a very poor book. It's very bad.
fair enough.
Frankie says first, love you, Daniel, Chris.
Aw,
Thank you.
thank you.
Which, by the way, this is our live podcast where we will be reading your comments live when we can. When we can't, you'll just have to deal with it.
When it makes sense for us to do so.
And if you're here for the podcast, I'll probably just edit out that and. For the actual podcast, that drops on YouTube. Yeah. But if you're here on YouTube watching the official podcast, the time codes will be in the description, and there you can find our conversation on Loki season 2 episode
4,
episode 4. Yeah, whichever episode it was.
It's 4 because the
episode.
Yes, it's 4 because the season is 6 episodes long, and
do
there's
they have names?
2 to go.
See, when we did like when we did Ahsoka, like we wrote down the episode names because we were like going in like elbow deep into like a description of the episode. These were just kind of like informally chatting about,
just letting them happen.
Yeah. So it's whatever episode of Loki happened a couple days ago, and then also in the description you'll find a time code for Gen V, which was also Thursday night's episode, which was also a lot of fun.
Really good, yeah.
Particularly if you are into The Boys, because there was a pretty good cameo. It spoiled it a little bit in the thumbnail, but I don't know if I can care.
Whatever. So
you can check that out. Also, our little I don't know what I'm going to call the video yet. Spooky / grisly horror movie moments from Star Wars.
We'll workshop it.
I don't know. Maybe I'll let ChatGPT name it. Just let it go for it. Thanks to Connor at the Star Wars Hub and Star Wars Veritas. He's a good friend of ours. He runs a good thing on Facebook. Check his stuff out.
He runs one of the few good Star Wars fan pages.
Yeah, and it's nice. The whole thing is anti-clickbait. I just realized, so I sent you a link today to a clip that my friend Robbie sent me from South Park, which is Cartman
talking to a psychiatrist saying, I'm having these visions of everyone around me changing, and it's a prolonged Kathleen Kennedy shitpost.
Yeah,
about how she's ruining everything you love and hold dear.
It is some of the funniest shit I've seen in a while. It is so good. Like South Park never really fails to deliver in the first place. I've been a fan for a long time. I just haven't been watching it lately. And it's like, that your belief system is particularly terrible and stupid if South Park is making fun of it.
Yeah.
So congratulations, all of the Kathleen Kennedy haters.
You are now on the same level as Scientologists.
Right. Yeah. Or the Mormons.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry if you're Mormon. Oh, God.
We better get off this right now.
Jimmy says, I know about Clone Wars scary moments. How about Clone Wars scary moments? There is at least one moment from Clone Wars on the list. It's not a ranked list.
It's just whatever came to mind.
Yeah, I just kind of made a list.
Okay.
We'll get to it when we get to it. Also, hi. Hope you're both
there.
well. I'm well.
Yeah.
I'm well enough. I mean, shit, I'm here.
Okay, is that all the bullshit we have to get through?
Click like and subscribe.
Yep.
Share the stream. Go check us out on Discord, where you may not post links to your videos if you are a creator online or on YouTube or TikTok. Do not come to our Discord and use it as your way to promote your shit.
Yeah, we had to have a disciplinary moment to this week. Okay.
Somebody got spanked. It's fine. After this, we'll have some kind of video game.
Well, we'll figure something out.
It's either going to be Battlefront 2 or maybe Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. So it'll be one of those.
You'll have to tune in to find out, because even we don't know.
Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons isn't happening this weekend.
Too many schedule conflicts.
Yeah, that'll be next weekend, though, I presume. Also, we'll have Star Wars news.
Yes.
On this, which
God, we have actual news, like actual. There's some honest to God news.
Yeah, when we get to the video games, I'm gonna try to get all that into its own video, so we'll like kind of like clump it all together. But I think I'm starting this one, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sean Levy, who is a director, is doing like a round of press junkets, right? And if you don't remember who Sean Levy is, he is slated to do a Star Wars movie in the future, but like it's in its real early stages because like the WGA strike like really kind of messed with everything.
Plus, he's currently working on Deadpool 3, I believe.
Right, which also is going to be fucking crazy.
Yeah. Because that's the one that's supposed to bring the X-Men into the MCU.
Right. And I've seen a bunch of shit about Daniel Radcliffe's Wolverine, which
I believe it when I see it. Like, I believe he could do it because Daniel Radcliffe's a legitimately good actor, but that sounds kind of weird.
Have you seen the pictures? They're either set pictures or they're just really good photoshops.
I don't think I have.
I would buy it. I'd be like, okay. Like he's a little skinny, but I mean, that's fine. Like that's not that big of a deal.
Is it at all resembling like the meme of him in like the bathrobe with the 2 handguns and the crazed look in his face?
No, I'll show it to you at some point. It's like it might be a Photoshop. I don't know, but it's like the rumors are going around. It's like I would buy him as Wolverine.
Sure.
I don't care a ton about X-Men in the first place. Which, by the way, we put out a video about Matt Vaughn last week, and I said something about not liking X-Men or whatever.
You didn't like his X-Men movies, yeah.
Someone had a problem with that, which is
of course.
Yeah. But anyway, Sean Levy is doing a Star Wars movie that hasn't been canceled yet. And he's doing press rounds for for a different thing called All the Light We Cannot See, which is a Netflix miniseries about World War II. And of course, since it's a Netflix series about World War II, what did Variety ask him about?
Star Wars. Because why the fuck? Of course.
Because you know that these guys get like 3 questions. And then they answer them, and then like the publicity agent like shoos them out, and then brings in like the next outlet to ask their questions. So Variety has
so you guys like the craziest fucking questions you can think of.
And so Variety's like, we're gonna ask them about Star Wars. We don't give a fuck about this Netflix miniseries.
Sure, shoot your shot.
Yeah. So they're asking him about his Star Wars project, and it like the questions were fairly nebulous except for the last one. But he brought Kathleen Kennedy up, which I thought was interesting because Kathleen Kennedy is like a good boogeyman for like weird Star Wars fans. It's kind of like how Brie Larson is a boogeyman for like weird MCU fans, and how like Nancy Pelosi used to be like a boogeyman for like the American political right,
because they're prominent women in positions of power, and that just terrifies a certain subsection of men.
And it always like it's always a thing where it's like, oh, she's the one that's ruining everything, and we've mentioned this before. Like, look, there are probably reasons to. I know there are good reasons to not like Kathleen Kennedy, and we've talked about it before. Like, I've got some problems with Kathleen Kennedy. It's just that like all the reasons that people like shit on social media are just really stupid. But I thought this was interesting because he said, when Kathleen Kennedy brought me on board to make a Star Wars movie, her central mandate to me was, I want a Sean Levy movie. I want a story and a tone that reflects you and your taste and what you bring to your movies with a Star Wars story. So I felt, this is a Sean Levy, so I felt extremely empowered. We are in early days, unfortunately, because the development process was abruptly ended due to the WGA strike. But I feel very empowered to trust my instincts in the development of the story. I think it was kind of nice in one, like I appreciate this approach if I were in a job like that, I could see the wisdom in this kind of thing where it's all right to have a bunch of different Star Wars movies with different covers, but still have it be Star Wars at the core, but having it kind of be different. And they've already been kind of doing this. How like Rogue One feels different than like the main trilogy movies, but it's still clearly Star Wars, right?
the universe is big enough to have a lot of different stories and a lot of different flavors of stories.
Yeah.
So like if you're having these one-off movies, it's a brilliant idea to bring in these established talented directors, say, we're going to give you this much money, go find your actors, tell your story. It is not such a good idea if you do this with like an entire trilogy.
Well, I think it could be. It absolutely could be. You could have a trilogy and be like, we're going to have 3 different directors, which was the plan for the sequel trilogy. You were going to have J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and Colin Trevorrow, right? The thing is, there was no connecting plot arc between those 3 beforehand. They were just like, just make it up as you go along, like George Lucas did in the original trilogy, because that's what he did. Despite him saying that he didn't, which is bullshit, and we can prove it. Not a good idea.
No.
George Lucas didn't know that Star Wars was going to make any money. So he was like, I'm going to make this movie and then I'll be done with it.
I mean, like, he embezzled half the budget for Industrial Light and Magic.
Well, not even that. It's like he was the guy fighting against the establishment. That was George Lucas. Yeah. He was a huge fucking hippie. The dude probably is now and would have been then a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, fucking pot smoking, liberal California dude, right?
Yeah.
And he did American Graffiti and his like
THX 1138,
right? And like that was he's like, I'm gonna do those kinds of movies, you know, and pay for them myself and shit. Star Wars happened, and it obviously was a massive success. And everyone was like, you will make another one. And he's like,
well, shit, I guess I got to make another one.
I have merchandising rights, so we will be doing more, so there are more toys. But like, that isn't a great way to make a cohesive story. And audiences had the same problem with it then. When you go and read some of the old critical reviews from like Empire Strikes Back, people had problems with Empire Strikes Back, which is, I think, the best Star Wars movie.
I think it's objectively the best.
And people had problems with Return of the Jedi, which to me is the second best Star Wars film, right? And it's just like people now with the sequel trilogy. It's like there was hate for it, and then probably in 10 years, like no one will give a fuck. But it would have been better, and it could have been an instant home run for Disney if they had just had a connecting arc through 3. Like let J.J. Abrams set up a mystery box. That's fine.
Sure, yeah.
But being like, you are going, like, this is what's going to end up with Snoke. This is what's going to end up with Kylo Ren and everything.
Just have some writing oversight of what's going on.
Yeah. And they didn't. And I think that's the problem. Like the different directors wasn't the problem. Just their lack of guidance.
I guess the directors would have been a symptom of that lack of
planning, maybe.
Well,
I don't know. I think the director's thing was they wanted each film to feel like its own little thing. And maybe that's why they wanted them just to make it up. But it wasn't a good idea. They shouldn't have done it. Yeah. So Variety used their last question to ask if his movie was going to be a Star Wars prequel story to the sequels, because I guess Sean Levy is really good friends with Adam Driver, and they asked him if he's going to get Adam Driver to do like a
Kylo Ren origin story,
and he said, I'm surprised he wasn't like, that was your last question. You don't want to talk about my Netflix series. He said, your words, not mine. As you know, Adam is a buddy, and I've always been a huge fan of Kylo Ren, but no comments. Which you would have to say in that position, because of course you'd be under an NDA. You wouldn't be able to say anything about it. You couldn't confirm or deny anything, or you'd get a penalty.
Yes.
And you'd have to owe a bunch of money.
Fucking the Mouse's legal ninjas would be all over him.
Probably not going to do a Kylo Ren prequel story to the sequels.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And if it was one character they were going to do that with, Kylo Ren would be the guy, because Adam Driver.
Adam Driver's phenomenal.
Yeah. But yeah.
Speaking of Star Wars movies, you remember that Daisy Ridley, Rey continuing the Jedi Order movie that was rumored about? Well, there've been some more rumors.
Okay.
So this comes from Star Wars Newsnet and the writer Miguel Fernandez, who apparently has some sources at Lucas.
Okay, so this Star Wars Newsnet is, as far as I've been able to tell, has been a fairly reliable outlet as far as not going with the boneheaded stuff.
I don't remember seeing anything on there that was blatantly wrong.
And if they come up, like, I don't like, they don't plug for Mike Zero and Star Wars Theory, which is nice. And I feel like I've seen wacky stuff on there before, but they usually say this is a little unlikely.
So there's some rumors flying around that the title of this new movie might be A New Beginning, but apparently that's not what's been decided yet. They're still workshopping the title. Way back in April, Kathleen Kennedy said that they were aiming to get a script done for this by the end of May, but then the writer's strike happened and that couldn't happen. So it looks like they're looking to have a script done by Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Which, is considering they would have worked on it. Yeah, it's a month, less than a month now. Shooting, photography was scheduled to start in April of next year, but that might not be happening because the script was pushed back so far.
Also, I mean, we still have SAG-AFTRA strikes happening.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
like if that keeps dragging on, then who knows when this movie gets made. And there's some other mentions. This is more speculation than anything, that they might bring Daisy Ridley on as like an executive producer, the same way that like Tom Hiddleston is on Loki.
Yeah, that's fairly common for stuff like that. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. In fact, I'm surprised it's a good way to make extra money on stuff like that, because you get a kind of a bigger cut of the earnings and stuff.
Yeah. The big thing that's interesting here is the possibility of John Boyega coming back. So you may remember immediately after Rise of Skywalker came out, John Boyega gave some interviews where he was none too happy with Disney about the way he and his character were treated in that movie.
Yeah.
And in recent months, he's given other interviews where he sort of walked some of that back.
Yeah.
So because
he's going to be in the movie.
Yeah. The strong implication there is that John Boyega is going to appear in this movie, which makes sense considering that like Finn was needing to tell Rey something, presumably that he's force sensitive, and
also semi-canonically, he is Rey's Jedi student in the
old Christmas?
The one of the holiday.
The Lego Christmas special. Yeah.
So and that takes place after Rise of Skywalker, and he's learning how to be a Jedi. So I think that's more or less like kind of like light confirmed, is that he's going to be a Jedi.
Yeah, I'd say so. The movie still seems to be on target for May of 2026.
On target. Oh,
that's a ways away.
Yeah, it's actually not that far away. Well, what year is it?
It's 2023. That's like 2.5 years from now.
Well, actually, it's about as far away as I would think it would be for a movie. It's probably going to be a little later than that, I bet, because of the strikes and stuff.
Could be.
Yeah, it depends on how long that goes on and everything. So I'm looking at our news rundown here, and I don't know why I thought the story you just talked about was a different thing.
I don't know.
For some reason, I thought it was the new Cal Kestis Jedi game.
Yeah, I couldn't quite put those together. Is it video game time?
Yeah,
it's video game time.
I thought we were about to do video game time, and I was like, wait.
All right, talk about Cal Kestis.
Well, this was going to be yours.
Okay, I guess I'll talk about Cal Kestis.
Now I'm just really confused.
So, as happens with any successful video game, Respawn is making yet another Jedi game.
Yeah.
Where you get to be Cal Kestis and you go around and throw lightsabers at people and do all sorts of terrible things to them with the Force.
And even dismember them in the latest game, which was a lot of fun.
So Respawn is hiring for a principal gameplay designer. So if you have 7+ years of experience in the industry and have
we're just a job board for Respawn now.
And you have shipped a AAA game in your lifetime, maybe you want to go work for Respawn, make a Star Wars game.
Go to Respawn, tell them we sent you.
Yeah. So like, of course they were always going to make another one of these games. They're going to make them till they stop making money.
Cameron Monaghan accidentally confirmed a few weeks ago that they were doing it. So he's like, yeah, we're working on the sequel right now.
So like, we know literally nothing else about this game other than it's probably going to be 2 or 3 years out. But there's
I would bet it ties into some of the live action stuff that's happening.
Could very well be because there were also rumors or wishes, I guess, I think of Cameron Monaghan.
I think they're mostly Cameron's wishes. Like he really wants
he's
to be
trying to manifest by talking about them,
right? Which he is. in his own right, a really good live action on screen actor. In addition to his,
well, I mean, he does the mocap for Cal Kestis, right?
Yes, yeah, but aside from that, he's been in notable TV shows that have been really great, and he's also a huge Star Wars fan too. So it's that would be kind of nice.
Yeah.
But the timeline that the part of the era that they occupy in the games would make it very easy to tie them into what's happening right now with Thrawn and Ahsoka and the Mandalorian and everything. Especially since at the end of the previous game, or the Jedi Survivor, they've got this whole like haven planet for Jedi.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It just I could see them showing up.
There's also that fun connection you noted between Ahsoka and the first game,
right,
where the statues look a lot like the Zepho.
Yeah, right, which is I think that's kind of our biggest clue that they're doing it. I mean, it could just be oh, look, you guys remember this? Like, they know people are studying it frame for frame. They're like, we'll throw them a bone. But it probably is actually kind of a pretty big hint that they plan on bringing some stuff in.
So let's see what else goes into video games here.
Okay, Ubisoft released its first half 2023-24 earnings figures, which
ordinarily would not be anything we give a shit about, except they're making a Star Wars game.
Also, I hate reading shit like this because it's like, oh, that's how much money you made, and you didn't pay any taxes, you motherfuckers. So the report states that this doesn't make any sense to me. I laughed when I read this. The report states, great financial confidence for the rest of the year. Because of this, Ubisoft has announced the decision to move a large game to fiscal year 2024-25 to maximize its value creation, which is to say, Ubisoft is like, we're doing so well financially, we're delaying one of our games. Does not make any sense. Why would you do that?
I assume.
Hold on. The overperformance in quarter two and the current positive momentum of Ubisoft's brands build confidence for the rest of the year. The company can therefore confirm its announced guidance of strong top-line growth and non-IFRS, whatever the fuck that is, operating income of approximately 400 million pounds, which is probably around $800 million US. Without that, may be incorrect. It's definitely more than 4.
It's in that neighborhood. I know the pound is.
Yeah, the American dollar isn't worth as much as the pound. Yeah. Without releasing the large game, it's initially planned to launch during the first quarter. This game also is. We've been everyone's been able to deduce that it's Star Wars Outlaws because all of the other big games in their release schedule are still on track to be released when they're supposed to be released. Yep. This is the only one that isn't. So it's Star Wars Outlaws. So they're talking about, and I don't get this idea that they're like, oh, we are rolling in so much money that we have to postpone one of our games because then we would make too much money.
So I can see it as they want to produce, like they don't want to have a period of time where they're making like no money at all, because that looks bad to investors and it tanks your stock. So they're spreading out their releases a little bit better, so that it looks like they have smooth, like that they're always making this much money. I'm not a business person. This is just what I think, like trying to be in their heads.
I think they have to delay it, and they're like, how do we make this look good? Oh, we're making too much money.
That's also a possibility. And honestly, if you're going to, like, if the release of a game is going to be fucked with for financial reasons, I would much rather it be delayed rather than pushed forward, because if you rush a game, that means there's less time to, you know, make it good.
Right.
Whereas if you delay
totally get it. Like, I don't have, the delay thing isn't the problem here. Like, get a good product. Also, delay it far enough where you don't have to commit heinous human rights abuses to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. That would be great.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, okay, we can put this motherfucker out tomorrow if we kill 20 children and it'll make us tons of money. They'd be like, where are the children? Bring them here. Right. And that's like the decision they usually make, when really you could just delay it to next week, not kill 20 children, make about as much money, and the product's really good.
Product is better than if you did kill the children.
But you get $2 less doing that. So you got to kill some children to make $2 more. And it just
capitalism.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh my God. I would obviously prefer a polished product, something that doesn't crash on day one or needs. I think games now are just going to have launch day patches. That's just kind of a norm now.
But that's part of how like the game has to be sent off to like physical disc printers months in advance.
Yeah.
So like the developers have that much time between the build that gets sent off to the disc and release to make a patch to fix all the stuff.
Yeah.
So that's just how games work.
Right. I mean, they could have done it like they did it in the old days and just have it done when they send it off.
I mean, they could, but then
they wouldn't make $2 less.
You have them sitting there all that time up to release, not doing anything. Yeah. Anyway, we have,
and they would rather kill employees sitting there doing nothing than pay them. Mm-hmm. So
we got one more bit of video game news. You might remember Dark Forces Remastered.
Yes, someone was just talking in our chat the other day about this. Yeah,
has a release date. It is February 28th, 2024, which is not that far off.
Yeah,
it probably like a little bit unfortunate for the company that they missed the holiday season, but they'll get over it.
Darth Nyla says, we ever going to see Battlefront 2? We never going to see Battlefront 2. I think maybe he means Battlefront 3.
3, presumably.
Or do you mean like right now, when are you guys playing Battlefront 2? Because if so, that's the most dramatic way to ask that question. And the answer is here in a little bit, maybe, or maybe not. Yeah. Depends on who's available to play later.
If I remember right, like EA put Battlefront 3 like way on the back burner a while ago. Like they're not even actively developing in that direction.
I don't think they expect to ever do it. I think that they're just, I don't know.
Maybe
the Battlefront 3 thing is crazy because like, I don't know. People, this is actually, my opinion about this might have evolved a little bit. So Battlefront 2, the newest one, had a disastrous launch.
Yes.
Because they tried to put loot boxes in. Star Wars fans.
Everyone hated it.
Yeah,
and
Star Wars fans were like,
the most downvoted Reddit comment in history and blah, blah, blah.
God damn it, Kathleen Kennedy and your fucking loot boxes and all that other bullshit, right?
Yes. Noted EA executive Kathleen Kennedy. And they walked back from it, and now the game is fairly okay.
Right. It destroyed their entire in-game economy, and they had to spend the next 2 years drip-feeding content to fix it. And then as soon as they got just enough goodwill for everyone to be like, oh, they're making, just like a week after the articles started coming about oh, Battlefront 2 is making this really great comeback. They're like,
we're done.
Fuck you guys, we're done. We're out, right? And I'm pretty sure, like I used to...
Which, in fairness, might have been their plan all along to only support it for those 2 years, but the timing is just hilarious.
Yeah, right. Look at me, Daniel. Chris off the... I don't understand what that means.
Anyway.
Also, General Grievous fans says, I think the scariest Star Wars moments are anything with me. Basically, all my appearances in Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith.
There's one in the animated Clone Wars.
It's on my list. It's on my list in my head, but it's not on my list in
okay. Do we have any more news? I don't think there's any more.
There's one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I thought this was pretty interesting. So there's a book that came out or is going to come out called MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios by Joanna Robinson, Dave Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards.
Okay.
The book claims that Disney forced both Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm to announce projects that were nowhere close to being ready for announcement, let alone development.
I can actually... So you remember years back...
I believe this 100%.
Yeah. Like Disney had this expo where like they shoved Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy on stage and they announced like dozens
with
upon...
a cow product.
Dozens of movies and Disney Plus series and all this shit.
Some about Star Wars droids and...
Yeah. Like... And like
that's where Andor was announced.
Yeah, and we were like, "What? Okay."
It ended up being like the best Star Wars thing.
Yeah, but like I can absolutely believe it based on that because like look at the stuff that they announced there that we haven't seen and will never see.
Yeah.
So Rangers of the New Republic, that was not anyone at Disney's fault. That was just fucking Gina Carano.
Yeah.
The Star Wars droids thing that we have not heard anything about.
Whatever the fuck that even is supposed to be.
The Lando series that.
It's going to be a movie now?
I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be a movie now. Allegedly, according to like Donald Glover.
It's a movie now? It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie now, yeah.
Let's see. There was one more on that list somewhere.
Oh, I know Star Wars Visions was on it.
No, Visions is something that happened. I'm talking about stuff they announced that
didn't happen?
This is where we got the joke about every time Kathleen Kennedy opens her mouth, something gets canceled.
Yeah, now I feel kind of bad.
Yeah,
like I kind of just thought it was her fault.
It apparently wasn't her idea.
Yeah, and this
just Bob Iger was like, "You're going to announce all this shit, so our shareholders get giant boners and give us more money."
I don't think it was. I think this happened when Bob Chapek was president. Oh, I think that's part of the. Okay, so famously, I guess everyone hated what Bob Chapek did at Disney. They brought Bob Iger out of retirement because he was previously the president. Of
Disney. You're going to fix this.
Yeah, and he was like, well, first, I'm going to piss all over Bob Chapek in public. Hopefully that'll help.
Well, first, you're going to give me a wheelbarrow full of money, and then I will piss on Bob Chapek in public. And then I will fix this.
And so I'm pretty sure this whole thing where they announced, I think that happened. I could be wrong about that, but I seem to remember that it was.
Fact check us in the comments.
Yes. It's one of those things where like I read this and I'm like, not only is that shitty, but also it makes me feel a little bad.
Not only is it completely believable, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened.
It's nice to know that this is a Disney issue and not a Lucasfilm issue.
Yeah, definitely.
And it makes me feel a little bit more easy about how some of the stuff is happening over there. And I think generally, and this could go for any corporate thing where they're making art, is if you just get the fuck out of the way and let the people who do this stuff do their stuff, everything will be fine. But they can't do that because they have to make $2 more and or kill 20 children. They might do the 20 children anyway. Yeah.
That's just how Hollywood works.
Right. And it's just too bad. It just kind of, they've got a quantity versus quality problem also at MCU and Lucasfilm. Yeah. Where, because like MCU set up this whole expectation 15 years ago with Iron Man, where they make all these standalone stories that all kind of like converge on the Avengers. It was massively popular and made a lot of money. So they're like, do that now 100 more times. And so they started doing it everywhere. And it worked for the other Marvel movies because they had already done it once, but like the DCEU was like, oh, we're going to do the same thing with Batman, except all of our solo stories are really bad. And they're doing the same thing with Star Wars, right? And I think they're about to pay it off a little bit. And if they paid off well, it would have worked with like the Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew,
all that leading into Dave Filoni's movie,
right?
Presumably.
And then the MCU did the next thing, which is, we're going to do the multiverse thing. And then everyone's like, we're going to do the multiverse.
We got to have a multiverse because the MCU did it.
And then we get shit like The Flash that we saw this last summer that was so bad.
So bad.
And I wanted it to be good, but
I didn't. I was perfectly okay with it being bad, honestly.
It had Michael Keaton's Batman in it, and I needed it to be good. Yeah. And it's like my partner, we saw the three of us saw the movie together. He just laughed he loved it the whole time. Yeah. But I was like, this is terrible. This is so bad. So it's like, I don't know. Hollywood has this problem where they're like, we don't want to bet money on something that might be good. We would like you to get a franchise that has already made money and then just for more money.
Pump it out until it stops making money.
Yeah. So there we go. There's your Star Wars news. Let me check our chat and make sure that I didn't miss anything. Good.
I think it's time to get spooky.
It is. So there are spooky moments in Star Wars. Like shit happens. It can't be scary enough that it'll scare children.
There's one that is leaping out in my memory right now that probably did scare children.
Yeah, actually, there are a few. And since it's kind of like getting up on Halloween, things are starting. It's the scariest time of the year.
It's spooky time.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some. I don't know what I'm going to call the spooky / grisly things in Star Wars that feel like a horror movie.
Okay.
This list is not exhaustive.
Not exhaustive. Not in any order.
Right. So if you have something that I missed or that you just want to celebrate, put it in the chat or in the comments. Yeah. And right here, make sure you like, subscribe to the video. It's what Jesus would want, I think.
Can I just give you a couple that are leaping out?
Well, I was going to say, since these are in no order and it's not exhaustive, you can jump in whatever you want.
So let's start with Rogue One when Darth Vader.
Oh, you can't do that one. That's okay. No? So when I said they're not ranked, the one I saving for last is that one.
Okay, sorry. Let's go.
Which everyone is going to say anyway.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Let's go with Empire Strikes Back then, when Luke goes into the Force cave and has this LSD vision of fighting Darth Vader, and then the mask explodes and it's his face there.
That whole scene is creepy. Yeah.
It's maybe not like slasher film scary, but it has this sort of creeping horror to it.
I think it took, so for us, that's such a huge part of our experience with, like, everyone knows that so well that they can't remember a time when they didn't know it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Imagine being audience members, seeing that movie on opening night, not exactly knowing how the Force worked, because all you've seen is 1977 Star Wars. Where like, you can tickle balls with it, I think, and
like you can see with a sheet of metal in front of your face.
And in the middle of the middle of the story, Luke walks into a cave on a planet where everyone, like,
everything is a swamp.
Yeah. And it's like, there's no reason for Darth Vader to be there.
Yeah.
And then he's
there.
And you're like, what the actual fuck?
What?
How did, and then and then he kills him. And you're like, oh, is it over?
Okay.
The good guys win.
Yeah.
And then the faceplate explodes and you're like, what the fuck is it? If you're not taking this seriously, I'm not taking it seriously. So
what really makes that sequence work is that the camera, like, the frame rate slows down so dramatically. Like, you can tell there's something weird going on. It's hard to know exactly what it is. It's just they're showing you that this is some fuckery.
Yes. Shit, who directed Empire Strikes Back? I always blank on shit when I need Kirshner. Irvin Kirshner. Yeah, sorry. I know this shit to memory except for when I need it in a moment like this. I don't think George Lucas could have directed it as well.
Certainly not.
Please don't come. Look, I get it. I say this a bunch. George Lucas is a creative force that we
visionary. It breaks down when you get to specifics.
Yeah, we only
the man can't write. He's not a great director. Fantastic director.
He does make some really good decisions though about stuff.
Yeah,
other stuff he doesn't. Irvin Kershner is an amazing director. And I think it's one of the reasons that moment is so good. Another thing. Mm-hmm. Star Wars monsters, they're all over the story. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are pretty scary. And I remember being scared by the Wampa in Empire Strikes Back, since we're on Empire. And the thing that got me was, if you saw it on release night, which I didn't because I wasn't born yet, it was a lot different than the version we know now, which is scarier, where they've got a guy in a suit chomping on like a human leg or something. And it's scarier than in the original release, because in the original release it was just like a guy in a costume moves past the camera really close to it, and that's all you get. Yeah. But like you see how tall he stands up, and he's in fucking, it's like, it's the whole thing is scarier. And the way they pace it in the special edition, you feel like Luke is in more danger of actually getting grabbed by this thing while he's hanging upside down. Mm-hmm. So as a kid, I was like, what the fuck? Also, this is not scary at all. But as a kid, I used to take my toy lightsaber, put it just out of reach, hang upside down on my couch, pretend to be Luke, and try to use the Force to get my lightsaber. Mm-hmm. It never works.
So, as long as we're still on Empire Strikes Back, the entire fight at the end of Vader versus Luke.
One moment in particular. Because first of all, that sword fight is amazing. Yes, it's so good on so many levels, and it kind of introduced this thing that kept happening in Star Wars after that, which is the lightsaber duels have clear geography and a direction and everything, and so they're fighting on their way through the Tabana gas operation on Bespin, and there's a bit of a levity in the action. Like Vader and Luke are separated.
Yeah, they're separated. Luke is like crawling through tunnels and walking around, and
he's like looking around. The music cuts out. You don't hear anything, and just out of nowhere, Vader's like, "Whoa!" And Luke's like, "Oh God!" And all of a sudden, you hear his breathing and shit. Yeah. And like at this point, Vader's not fucking around anymore. No, because before he was like, "Oh, bitch, put that lightsaber away," and he's just kind of like, "Get away from me." And then like he like sprays him with carbonite, and he's like, "Oh, fuck you, dude." And then he finds him, and he's like, "No, I'm going to kill you now, or I'm going to like, I need to end this fight." So that was terrifying.
Yes.
I always thought that I want to make sure I put some sequel stuff in there too, because I don't come at me. But shut the fuck up. There are scary moments in the sequel trilogy. There are amazing moments in the sequel trilogy. Eat my ass. Not literally, please. The entire scene in Force Awakens where Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, kills his father.
Yes,
it's scary. Is at least a little creepy to me, and I think it's because the metaphor is heavy-handed, but Star Wars is kind of heavy-handed.
Yes.
Like there's
Star Wars is not renowned for its subtlety here.
But there's like
we have people in outlandish costumes prancing around with laser swords. Like subtlety has gone out the window.
Yeah, we don't go to. I mean, there are beautifully subtle moments in Star Wars, but a lot of it just isn't. But this moment where like they're standing on the bridge and the environment reflects Kylo's shift in attitude, where the light goes out and then he's just bathed with red light, and you can tell he's made the decision to kill him, and then he kills Han Solo. Yeah. And it's like it's heartbreaking, but it's also the whole ambiance is like real creepy.
Another Force Awakens moment that kind of leaps out at me is the very beginning. The first time we see Kylo Ren, he comes down into that village and they drag out the Force worshiper, and he's having that whole sequence, and then fucking Poe shoots at him. He just stops it.
New Force power, by the way. We're like, oh, that's pretty neat.
And then the best part of this is as he's walking back to the shuttle, he just lets it go.
Yeah.
Like just to show, again, it's heavy-handed, but it's showing that they're at least attempting to build him up as the sort of monster Vader was originally,
or at least trying to be. Yeah. A couple of moments from Mandalorian that are more maybe I don't want to say Saw-ish, but like I'm surprised that they got this grisly. Was Din Djarin cutting a man in half with a door?
Yes. God, that first episode goes so hard.
Yeah. And then Book of Boba Fett, which is Mandalorian season 2.5. Din Djarin cutting a man in half with a darksaber, and the entire table. Because why not? Whereas like, that's all right. That's pretty gross. Another thing that always kind of stood out to me as a grisly, maybe not so much a scary, but like grisly moment, is episode 3, Count Dooku being beheaded.
Oh yeah.
And the reason it's so creepy to me is because when you watch it, they VFX in a shadow for the head as it's flying off on the floor. Like you can see it fly off.
Like they didn't have to do that, but they did.
But they did. And they do the same thing in episode 2 when Mace Windu cuts Jango Fett's head off.
God.
Where he swipes his head off and you see the helmet, the shadow of the helmet flying, and then all of a sudden there are two, like the head like falls out. Oh God. Yeah, it's like pretty gross.
They didn't have to do these things, but they thought about but
they did.
It's a logical consequence of I have essentially a frozen laser as a sword.
Yeah.
So
like a really obvious but I think classic example is in 1977 Star Wars: A New Hope. Luke returns to find his aunt and uncle are burnt husks. And it's the way it's scored and the way it's presented is the classic hero journey where he decides to answer the call to action. And so it's an impactful moment for him where it gives him a chance to be a hero.
Well, it's like he says, there's nothing left for me here.
Right. But if you consider the moment and consider what he's seeing, it's fucking horrifying.
Yeah. Another moment from A New Hope, the Dianoga, the monster in the trash compactor. That's
pretty fucking creepy. Yeah. Actually, the whole trash compactor scene is kind of creepy.
Yeah. It's a saw trap.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah. Darth Maul's hallway scene from Clone Wars season 7, the newest Clone Wars.
Okay, yeah.
Where Ahsoka's like, I need to get off the ship. I'm going to let you out of your cell. Go do some Maul shit. And he's like, oh, I thought you'd never ask.
Yes.
And
like, I have the biggest boner right now.
Does he need a lightsaber? No. Does he use one? No, he doesn't. He fucking pulls panels from the wall and uses them. I think he picks up a guy and uses him as his shield at some point. It's fucking great.
Yeah. So I want to go to Obi-Wan for a second. The Obi-Wan series. The first Obi-Wan versus Vader fight.
Okay.
Like this is Vader in full-on monster mode, like using fire to fucking torture Obi-Wan. Like,
and the chase leading up to that is kind of weird. It could have been. It's too bad they didn't shoot this on a real set because it probably actually would have been better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
It still works.
Yeah. Also, Obi-Wan I kind of wish Kathleen Kennedy. God damn it, Kathleen! I wish Kathleen Kennedy hadn't spoiled the fact that they were getting 2 fights in that show.
Yeah.
Because I would have liked to go into that not knowing that. Because that first fight, you're like, oh shit, Obi-Wan's getting his ass whooped.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? Anakin, at this point, Darth Vader's slaughter of the younglings in episode 3
definitely
is it treated in the moment as something very sad and tragic, which of course it is.
It's like if you think about it, it's horrifying.
Yeah, and I remember seeing on opening night, seeing this movie with one of my best friends from high school, who shares my name, and watching this movie and sitting right next to me, seeing him grab the arms of his chair when that happened, to me like, what the fuck?
I think the worst part of it is that it's left to your imagination.
Yeah,
like the last thing you see is Anakin just turning on his lightsaber.
And the way the kid flinches and everything.
Yeah,
the whole thing is
then it cuts away.
Yeah,
and like the next time we hear anything about it, it's fucking Padme and Obi-Wan in the temple watching the recording of it happening.
Yoda, yeah. So another moment from Obi-Wan.
Yoda.
Yeah. Vader's village rampage, where he kills the child in front of everyone. He breaks the child's neck.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's pretty gross. So I had to bring up Red Harvest.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about a couple of non-canon things now. Red Harvest is a Star Wars book about it happens in the Old Republic. It's not canon.
It's zombies, basically.
It is literally Sith zombies. It's a terrible book. Mm-hmm. It is so bad. And there's dialogue in it that directly rips off Liam Neeson's Taken.
Sure. Yeah.
Purposely word for word. Mm-hmm. And it's embarrassing. It doesn't fit. It's weird. The whole book is terrible. I have it for some reason as a joke, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's there we go. The whole thing is gross.
As long as we're talking non-canon, in the Old Republic games, they introduced the rat ghouls.
Oh yeah,
which are these, again, zombie-like things where if one bites you, you turn into this horrible flesh-eating monster.
Right. Another thing from canon or non-canon might be canon soon though, is the villain Abeloth.
Okay.
So these books, the Fate of the Jedi books, which might not be up here. There are these ones standing up right here.
Okay.
This happened. These books came out before the Disney acquisition, but after Clone Wars. So it's this weird period of time where there is popular Star Wars out there, but Disney hadn't bought it yet.
Yeah.
And so Abeloth ends up being an offshoot from the Clone Wars episodes about the Mortis gods, the father and the son and the daughter.
Yeah. And
Abeloth is one of those gods, except she's immortal. Mm-hmm. And she's terrifying. She's real gross, and she's kind of like Voldemort, where she can like kind of split herself off into several beings. Mm-hmm. And the way Luke ends up beating her is everyone kills all the other things, and then he like gets in a metaphysical battle with her and kills her. But she is like kind of creepy and kind of gross. We have to say the Darth Vader hallway scene. Probably one of the, like, if I'm not going to pick the Luke Mando season 2 thing, like one of the biggest pants shitting moments in Star Wars that was also legitimately terrifying. Darth Vader cutting down a fucking hallway of fucking red shirts. Great.
It's perfectly shot. It's perfectly acted. Yeah.
Look, Rogue One is a good movie.
Yes, absolutely.
I went to go see it 3 times because of that one scene. I was like, I have to go see this again. Did we miss any? Oh, there two things from Clone Wars.
Okay.
Sure. So we said the 2D Grievous thing.
Is that the first appearance of Grievous?
Yes, it is. It's terrifying, and he is a lot more threatening in that than he was ever in the movies.
Well, that's before Mace Windu crushed his organ sac and gave him the cough.
The other thing is the Empire using Luminara Unduli's corpse to lure Kanan and Ezra into a thing where they can capture them.
It's pretty spooky.
They're like, oh, Luminara Unduli is still alive. She's talking to me through the Force. Let's go rescue her. They show up, and her like dried, mummified corpse is in this coffin, and they're like, oh, she's dead. Oh. And it is actually pretty creepy.
Yeah, that's another Obi-Wan moment that makes me think of like when he's walking through the Inquisitor Fortress, and there's all the Jedi and Jedi corpses in the tanks.
Yeah. Oh, and the kid. Oh my God, you're right. God. Oh yeah, that's actually. Wow, I'm glad you said that before, because I'm sure someone's going to say it in the comments.
In retrospect, Obi-Wan was a kind of spooky series. Like there's a lot of creepy.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, and the Inquisitors generally.
Yeah. The first scene we see them in Tatooine, where they're just kind of walking through. I think that's Mos Eisley or Anchorhead or something, and like
Mos Espa maybe.
Yeah, they're just fucking with people.
Yep. The Susan Turpin says ThinkGeek used to sell Wampa rugs, and I desperately want one of those. I'm not sure if they still do or who would sell them now. I'm sure someone somewhere has it.
look on Etsy. I'm sure they're there.
There are amazing moments in sequel trilogy Eat My Ass that made me literally Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much of Star Wars overall isn't scary to me, in quotes, but so much of it is just sad. I cry a lot watching any of the movie shows, but I'm also a giant marshmallow who cries anything. I've become like that as I've gotten older. I didn't used to cry a lot. We talk about this all the time. Luke's appearance in Mando season 2, I still can't watch it without having some kind of emotional reaction. But you should have seen me the morning of when I watched it for the first time. Where I was so glad I was watching it alone because it took my breath away how excited I was about it, but I was also just streaming tears the entire fucking time because that's just who I am now. I'm the guy that cries at everything, and I'm fine with that. Let's use our remaining time to talk about.
I was gonna say, since we don't have any firm video game plans, do you want to just go long and talk?
Let's go a little long.
Okay,
we'll take like an extra 5 or 10 minutes.
So you want to talk Loki or Gen V?
Let's do Loki.
Okay,
first. The untimely demise of Victor Timely, which this whole episode was great. I thought. Spoilers, by the way, for both of these things.
So we've got like 3 plots going on here. Like the A plot is the loom is breaking down, the TVA is fucked.
They need Victor Timely to put his head in a thing and then and fix it, right?
The B plot is Dox, the Scottish Nazi, is still trying to take over the TVA, and now. Renslayer is now trying to take over the TVA, and
Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes.
What the fuck? Oh, by the way, this Miss Minutes thing did not surprise me. She has creeped me out from the beginning of the show when she appeared in season 1. I'm
very deliberately so.
There's something weird about her. I don't trust her. Actually makes a lot of sense now that. Yeah, a lot of things make sense with her. What's the third?
The C plot in my mind is Loki and Sylvie still not seeing eye to eye on whether the TVA should even exist.
Yeah,
and they have a conversation in the pie room that to me this echoed a lot of what I remember from the 2016 election, where Sylvie is like, we should just fucking burn it all down. Let's make something. And
he wants
new.
To fix it from the inside, that kind of thing.
And Loki is like. It's much easier. It's better in the long run if we fix it from the inside.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting quote there where she said we're just playing gods, and he said we are gods.
Yeah,
which
is true for him and Sylvie, but is maybe not so great when applied to the rest of the people working at the TVA.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny actually. Speaking of Sylvie, when they're having a conversation with Ouroboros, where Ouroboros passive aggressively says that, and then someone killed He Who Remains, and Sylvie is like.
I did that.
Yeah, and I apologize for nothing.
Yeah. Also, Timely and Ouroboros meeting each other and nerding the fuck out.
They need to like get married and adopt.
Like, of course, the guy who wrote the book, who inspired the guy who wrote the book that inspired him, is named Ouroboros.
And does the chicken and the egg thing here violate everything Professor Hulk tells us about time in
Who gives a fuck? It's cool.
The TVA exists in a place that's aside from time anyway, I think, so I'm not sure it matters. I don't know. And you know what? I'm just along for the ride anyway, so I don't give a fuck.
Their power source is raw time.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Either all of it's real or none of it is.
I also like that Ouroboros is like, well, I can reset Miss Minutes to get her out of the equation, but that also mean that like I shut down the generators that stop magic from happening.
And
Loki and Sam are like, do it! What the fuck? Do it!
Why didn't we do that before? Of course, one of the big shock moments is Victor Timely deciding to be the hero, and he's going to go out and fix the thing. What is it? It doesn't really matter.
He's going to stick the MacGuffin into the other thing and then launch it into the loom, and it'll fix things.
What you expect to have happen, even if you're going into it thinking Victor Timely is going to sacrifice himself, there is a struggled approach to the thing, and at the last minute he's able to fix it.
Slams it in, it goes off, and then he disintegrates.
It peacefully is like, yes, take me. What actually happens? The door opens. Immediately dies.
Turns into time spaghetti.
First of all, astonishingly, like I was like, oh no, oh god. But also I laughed because it's like, well, that guy.
It's a hell of an like it is one of the best anticlimaxes I can remember.
Yeah. I like the guys in the control room.
They're just like.
I like how the one guy's like, I didn't do that. It wasn't me. I didn't do this. And then the other big shock is
My favorite part of that, though, is that like the time loom explodes and it just cuts off suddenly.
Yeah, it's like a very Sopranos ending. Yeah, it's just kind of it like cuts like that's the other big surprise is that they don't win. The thing is that this kind of thing happened in season 1 where Loki is suddenly pruned, and you know that they can't kill their lead character, and he ends up in maybe he's going to where Richard Grant is.
Oh, I hope so.
Maybe Richard E. Grant will be
I
in the
need
next
more
episode.
Richard E. Grant Loki.
That's what happens in the first season. He gets pruned, and now he's friends with Richard E. Grant and a fucking alligator. Because why the fuck not?
They have 2 more episodes to wrap this up and take it to wherever they're going.
Jonathan Majors was reportedly in for 3 episodes. So I assume that either Victor Timely goes to the same place they go, or there's like another variant.
I think we get another variant.
Yeah, and it's a good. I guess every time we talk about this, it's a good place to say it. I'm really conflicted about this because he is my favorite part of the show, and
he's phenomenal.
Yeah, it bothers me.
Like if he is indeed guilty of the things he is accused of, he should be in jail.
Yeah. And I hope they do a vigorous investigation. I hope in this trial, all the facts come out. And that's when we make the judgment on it. And if the facts support him being a terrible person or him doing what he was accused of doing, he needs to go to prison.
Yeah.
Despite me loving him as an actor. And this is the sacrifice you have to make sure that people like that aren't allowed to go and do terrible things and keep doing them because of who they are. Right. Like even when I love Kevin Spacey as an actor. I really do. The dude is an incredible actor.
He's a terrible person.
He's a monster and he deserves to be in prison. Not to say nothing of, he shouldn't be a famous Hollywood actor. He should be in prison. He shouldn't be rich. He shouldn't be at fucking award shows in Europe or wherever the fuck he was a couple weeks ago or whatever. Yeah. The dude should be in a prison cell rotting away for what he's done to people. And if Jonathan Majors is guilty of what he's been accused of after the facts come out and the facts support that that's what he did, send him to prison. Let him rot there. That being said, he's my favorite part of the show. Yeah. He's and I like Tom Hiddleston a whole bunch. I love the actor that plays Sylvie. The guy that plays Ouroboros. Everyone. I never liked Owen Wilson before this show. Like he's really good in it too. And it's like, why do you? If this is true, dude, why? Like, just why did you have to? You ruined everything for everybody. Thanks.
And on that note, let's talk about Generation V.
Yeah. So the last couple episodes, they've done this thing where they've had like the cameos from the boys proper, which is like it's good connective tissue to tie it into everything that's happening. So this episode's big. Spoilers for Gen V, by the way. Victoria Newman, who is now running for, she's the vice president on the election ticket.
Also another cameo of what's her name,
the head of the
Billy Butcher's old boss.
Right. Yeah. So if you don't remember Victoria Newman, she's the one.
She's essentially AOC.
Yeah. And a crazy reveal in The Boys is one of my favorite moments in this show.
She can make people's heads explode.
And that episode where they have the congressional hearing and people's heads just start exploding. That is one of the most stressful, nail-biting moments I've ever experienced watching TV.
Yeah.
And it's gross. It makes me feel uncomfortable, but the whole thing is just so horrifying and you can't look away. And I love how Homelander's standing there the whole time like, he's not worried it's going to happen to him. He's just like, why is this happening? I don't understand what's happening right now.
This is strange.
Yeah. We find out that the dean, her ulterior motive is that she had a husband and child that was
they were on the plane that Homelander and
Queen Maeve blew up. Crashed. Yeah. Which is also the same reason that Queen Maeve ended up playing against Homelander as well. Or at least the one thing that like just came back and broke
her over the edge.
And so her whole thing is she's got a contagious virus, not a very contagious, but kind of a contagious virus that can kill only soups. And I like how she brings it to Billy Butcher's boss and it was like,
here you go.
And she's like, this is horrifying.
This is a war crime.
Like we can't do this.
This is literal genocide.
And I like how she in Veiled where she's like, oh, thank God I took this meeting and not Billy Butcher. Because Billy Butcher would be like, all right,
he'd be like, can I pay you for this?
Yeah, let's put this into the air conditioning system at Vought Tower.
Let's put it in the air conditioning. Let's put it in the water supply. Yeah. Let's put it in the food. Let's just get this worldwide.
Yeah. The telepath character, I can't remember any of these characters' names. I'm so sorry.
You talking about Kate or the Dickless Wonder?
Who?
The guy whose dick explodes.
Oh, one of the main characters. So Kate, I guess.
Kate.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see the dickless guy in they're red pilling the hot guy, which just feels a little weird.
Yeah.
That's the kind of person that happens to, someone who doesn't know anything about anything, and then the first person that's like, hey,
you're cool, here, have a beer. Let's go talk about how
they're trying to replace us.
Let's go talk about how we're the Ubermensch.
Yeah, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm reading a book called Prequel by I'm not going to say the name of the I don't want anyone to freak out or anything. It's a famous talking head pundit on a news station that traces Nazism and fascism in America to where we are today, with really good cited resources, and you should read it. It's pretty crazy. This is one of those moments where I'm glad that the boys in Gen V, like they go there, and it's like it rings a little hollow because it's from Amazon and they're terrible. Jeff Bezos is terrible, but like it's kind of cool to see them not be afraid of it and kind of go after it, because it really is. It mirrors kind of what's happening in the world right now with that kind of stuff, and like anyone who's really well informed, who's following what's happening in the news and stuff, and who remember or at least are informed about our history and where we've come from, like see what's happening, and you're like, oh, this has happened before, and this is scary and crazy. I'm kind of glad they're kind of doing that too.
So we should talk about the major plot things that happen. Yeah. So Marie and Jordan sneak into Dean Shetty's office, and they figure out what's going on with that.
I keep calling her Dean Shitty because I'm a 10-year-old.
Not inaccurate, and then Marie gets backstage to talk to Newman and is like, hey, so just so you know, Dean Shetty is making this, soup killing virus, and you just showed me that you can do the blood thing too, which I appreciate. Kind of a major reveal.
So that was a great reveal. I'm glad they develop Victoria's powers, but also as a proxy shows us how extremely powerful that one character can be.
Yes, so they've put a Chekhov's gun on the wall now, and Marie is going to make someone's head explode.
The thing is, I don't think I've seen her eyes turn white when she does that. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's different for every soup or whatever.
So that gets Newman's head clock a ticking, and like at the end of the episode, she goes to talk to the doctor who wants out, and he's here. This is all the virus I've got. And
I'm so sorry. I feel terrible. Yeah.
She's like, thank you. I'll give you this card and walk away. And he turns the card over, and it's completely blank on both sides.
Yeah.
Then his head fucking explodes because of course.
And the whole time she was going to do it. Every wide shot of that guy, I was like, oh no, it's good. Yeah. And they do it a couple of times where because they always they always switch to a wide angle for the VFX and everything. So usually they telegraph it and your stomach drops. You're like, oh, they do that a couple of times where they switch to the wide angle. You're like, oh God. And then you're like,
it's gonna happen.
It's not happened yet. And then the third time you're still kind of watching it happen. It's like, oh fuck, Jesus. That was great. I'm glad it happened. I thought it was really funny that she gave Victoria Newman the stuff, and then it's like, we have to stop we have to do it, and she's like, girl, politics. Let's be smart.
Yeah. The other major thing is that Kate was hanging out at Dean Shetty's house because they've got this weird mother-daughter thing going on.
It's all like Homelander and what's her name from the first season, except she doesn't drink her breast milk.
Yeah. It's still pretty fucking weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have one scene where it seems like Shetty's like, I love you. I care about you. I want us to be a family. And Kate's touching her. She's like, you're telling the truth. and they have this kind of embrace, and like it cuts away from there.
And you think that she's kind of got her back.
And then the next thing we see of those characters is like Kate has apparently mind controlled Shetty into confessing everything, and then makes Shetty cut her own throat.
Yeah. She's gone full bad guy, but not in the way we thought she would, which I thought was a really neat subversion.
Yeah, I don't think Shetty is dead. I think something has happened, and like this is not happening.
Chris, did you see how much blood that woman lost?
I don't think Shetty's role in the story is complete. Like, well, let me rephrase.
Maybe she got a soup that can like transform into other people, and
maybe
it's all a conspiracy.
Maybe this was part of Shetty's plan. Because like I
because I guess you're kind of right where like before that you kind of get the impression that she convinced her to
and like that runs it could have really been hollow if we don't see whatever made Kate change her mind.
I totally get it, and now that you've presented it that way, that could make sense. The thing is, I just thought that maybe she was being vulnerable enough to get her close enough where she could touch her.
Could be.
And it was just kind of an act.
Maybe.
So it would be interesting to see how they make that happen if it wasn't the way we thought it was.
Yeah.
So I think they don't, both these shows have 2 more episodes, right?
Maybe?
I know Loki does.
Loki has 2 more.
I don't know how many more Gen V has. Both of them have been a great ride so far. I've enjoyed both of them a whole bunch. At some point, I'm going to watch the new episode of Rick and Morty as well, because the new season's been out with the new voice actors. Famously, Justin Roiland is a terrible piece of shit. And the new voice actors they got are good. Like, they're fine. The guy that plays Rick probably isn't perfect, but I'm like, what the fuck ever.
Fine.
You know what's really funny is in a show like that, they could have gotten like Maggie Smith to do the voice for Rick, just in her normal voice, and just be like, "It's Rick and Morty. Shit's weird," and not ever explain it.
Yeah,
just have Dame Maggie Smith, fucking Professor McGonagall, fucking Rick Sanchez burping and being crazy just in her own way, and never explain why it's Maggie Smith's voice, and he'd be like, "Oh."
Okay,
makes sense. It's a Rick from a universe where Maggie Smith sounds the same as Rick Sanchez. Yeah. Like it just Anyway, we're gonna reset here and do something. People are messaging me on Xbox. It might be Battlefront. If it's not Battlefront, it'll be Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. We'll go through.
Who knows? Yeah. Not even us.
Yeah, it'll be a surprise. So come check us out here in a couple minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about the shit we're interested in.
Bye.
Get out of here. Bye.